This is the beginning crocheter tutorial. We're going to go through the basic stitches and do a little bit of warnings of things like that. So the first thing I want to tell you guys, do not buy expensive yarn. Do not start a project saying, oh my gosh, that's the sexiest yarn, I want to use that. Something like this, or even this, which is like a velvety yarn. What's going to happen is you guys are going to get frustrated. You're going to have $100 in yarn, and it's going to go in a bag, and you're never going to use it. Just go to Walmart. That's the cheapest place. Buy a Super Saver regular 4-ply yarn and start practicing before you do your amazing project. You will be very disappointed with your project and may give up on crocheting if you don't practice and make swatches. This is what a swatch is. A swatch is just a small example of the stitches that you're going to be using until they look consistent, sharp, and nice, and then you can do a nice project. So I would suggest this is a Red Heart Super Saver. And let me get this up so you're not blinded. Walmart has a brand too. It's a couple dollars cheaper than a Super Saver. Again, to start, you just want a really one skein of really cheap yarn and some hooks, and you'll be good to go. You can get a set of hooks that don't have nice handles and like that, things like this, for a very low price at Walmart or Amazon. And if it's something you really enjoy and you're getting into, you can get a set that has nice handles, or you know, there's a lot of different stuff out there for you to go ahead and get if you want to. I would not invest too much in the beginning until you decide that this is really what you want to do and you're loving it and you're enjoying it. It is a meditation. In the beginning, when you're doing blankets and scarves and hats and things like that, the simpler projects, I call it a meditation. And when you're going and you're moving into things that are more difficult, like, for example, these little like amigurumis, stuffed animals, clothing is not that hard either. It's just a lot of material, and you really can't fix a baby's sweater. A blanket can be kind of crooked, and you can live with it and still cover up with it. Also what you want to do is you want to use the recommended, if you have a pattern, the recommended hook for the yarn. So this is a 4-ply, and it's going to tell you right here that it's a 4-ply. It's going to recommend, this is your hook, the crochet hook, not the knitting, the size millimeter hook that they recommend. But if you guys are using a pattern, or you're listening to a video and following somebody on a video, use the hook that they recommend. So for example, almost all these come with a pattern. So on the back, there's the pattern to this scarf. But for the scarf, it's telling you you're going to use a 5mm hook, not the 5.5, and it's going to take you 2 balls. It's going to take you 2 of these to make this, this scarf here, if you're using the pattern on the back. So go ahead and get you guys some of that. And again, practice your stitches. Practice. What we're going to do today is go through the basic stitches that you'll be using. I will have more tutorials that are more advanced stitches, and you can work your way through that. So what we're going to start with is most of the projects that you guys are going to do are going to use a slip knot, and that's how you're going to start your project. So let's get started. So the slip knot, I turn it over my fingers, I grab both of my yarns, I twist, I reach through, and I grab my long strand, not your tail, and you pull it through. And this is a slip knot because look, it slips. Okay, and we'll do that again. Put it over your finger, pinch it, twist it, reach through, and grab the long one. This is your tail. You want to keep this tail. This tail is important. If you cut it, what's going to happen is this is not going to be a slip knot anymore. Down the road, you guys will, when you get better, you will tuck in your tail as you crochet so that you don't have to sew it in later. Nobody who crochets enjoys sewing in their ends. You feel like you're wasting so much time and you could just be crocheting instead of doing it. But that's down the road. Don't get yourself, ahead of yourself. Again, we're going to put the yarn over a finger. We're going to twist it. We'll reach through. We're going to grab the long yarn here. Never let go of your tail and pull it through. So now we're going to start with the chain. Again, most of your guys' projects are going to start with a chain of how many ever. 10, 20, whatever. 30. If it's a blanket, it could be 200. For your first big project, I suggest a baby blanket because it's not too overwhelming. But yet you get enough time to kind of get used to the stitch. Something else that I do recommend is instead of practicing and making these swatches, which drives me absolutely crazy because I feel like I'm really not getting anything done, is that you can do wash rags. And I will go ahead. I do have a link to the wash rag hand towels that I make. And you can go ahead and do that. So I just pick up a big spool like this of cotton to make a wash rag or a towel or scrubbies or anything like for the bath that's going to get wet. It has to be 100% cotton. The only problem with the cotton for the very, very beginners is that it has a tendency to kind of stick and it feels sticky. Because it's cotton, it's kind of sticky. It's not real smooth like it is with some yarn. So maybe what you might want to do is just pick up some yarn to just practice a little and then maybe do some cotton and then really get good with making some wash rags. And that is like we would call really good, where all your stitches are consistent, your lines are straight, and everything looks excellent. And then you're still making a product. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get back to our chain. Now bear with me because I'm going to sound a little crazy here in the beginning, but it's all going to come together. So this yarn here, your yarn that's coming from your yarn ball or your skein, we're going to call your food, okay? And this one loop that is on your hook here, we are going to call home. So what we want to do to chain is we are going to grab the yarn and pull through. Grab the yarn and pull through. So let's pretend we're just walking down the street and we see a food truck. We're going to grab our food. I know it's sounding crazy, but it's going to make more sense later. You're going to be thankful. Grab your food. You're going to go straight home. Grab your food. Go home. That is a chain. We are chaining. The thing with the chain that's very important is that your chain cannot be too tight. Many people who've crocheted for several years, what they'll do is if they're using a 5, they'll go up to a 5.5, or they'll move to a 6 for their chain. And I will show you why we do not do that. So I'm going to go ahead and chain tight. And I'll just do like 10. Okay, so the chain looks nice. It looks sharp. No mistakes. You would say, man, that's a beautiful chain. Well, let me show you what happened. Don't worry about this stitch that I'm doing right now. I'll teach it to you guys here down the road. I'm just using this as an example. And why this is so important is that I only did like 10 chains. And you're going to see this, what happens. Imagine if you had like 200 chains and you were making a blanket. You would be very upset. So what ends up happening is that it is too tight and it curves on you. You see that? So you're going to get all your stitches. You're going to pull it. You're going to go, wow, that looks great. And you're going to keep crocheting your blanket. And this is going to, what it's going to do is it's going to be super tight at the very bottom of your project. It's almost better to have bigger stitches. That's why you go up a hook size. If you cannot consistently chain, that's loose enough for your project. So a good, like I said, a good rule is go ahead and just jump up a size, and then you will be like A-okay, and things will be going great. So we're going to go ahead and chain. What you guys need to do now is you need to pause this video, and you guys need to practice your chain. Practice, practice, practice. This is fundamental. That's a difficult word. And you want a good looking chain. You want consistency. You want the right tension. Tension is where you are holding your yarn here. This little scissors, these two fingers, this is your tension. In some projects, you may wrap this 2-3 times for the tension. For big, poofy, airy blankets, you're probably just going to hold it like this. That's it. And you're just going to kind of pinch a little bit because you want a lot of yarn. You want it airy. The tighter the project is, the tighter you're going to hold it. So this is way advanced. I know that. But to do something like this, I wrap it like 3 times for my tension. We do not want any loose, airy, we don't want no air in something like this. So go ahead and pause the video and work on your chain. And then once you have a nice looking chain, then what we're going to do is we're going to come back, we're going to get together and come back, and we're going to start with a single crochets. Okay? So good luck, practice your chains, and then you can just either, if you want, just you can cut the yarn or you can just pull it out. It's called frogging. A chain does not do much damage to the yarn at all. Frogging and other stitches and certain patterns can kind of damage the yarn. So in crocheting and knitting, when you pull it out, it's called frogging. And it's not spelled like a frog, but it's called frogging. And where this came from is because you rip, and kind of sounds like ribbit. So they called it frogging. Some material like this does not frog good at all. So what happens is it just knots up and you cannot pull it out. That is why you don't want to use something fancy like this that's super smooth and super nice, because if you make a mistake and you go to pull it out, it just creates a knot. And you do not want that in your project. Experienced crocheters can frog a little better than newcomers to crocheting. So, and we have to pull out a lot less. So then you can move up to these types of material. Please don't waste your money and your energy and give up on crocheting by getting something fancy in the beginning. So go ahead and practice your chains, and I'm going to go ahead and meet you guys back here, and we're going to start single crocheting. Okay, good luck. Welcome back. I hope your guys' chains look great and you feel comfortable with chaining and with some tension. That is a good place to practice that. Now we're going to move on to single crocheting, the next step up. Now, whenever you are going to be going back and forth, we have to account for height. Okay, so if your project says chain 20 and then it says turn, it's going to tell you to chain 1 more, or you could say 20 plus 1. If you're doing like a half double crochet, it could say plus 2. It's important to do that. So this is 20 chains. What I need to do if I'm going to turn is I'm going to chain 1 to turn. So that's what I had my needle. This chain right there is actually the height, see that? So that we can go back this direction. If we do not chain 1 when we turn, what is going to happen is your project is going to look like this. So here's chains, here's no chains. And you are literally going to your project will become a triangle and you will not be happy. Keep an eye on that when you're working your project, that you are definitely always out here where you're supposed to be. so that you don't end up creating a triangle, or you start getting down to where you're like, why is there only like 6 stitches left when I started with 20? And then you're going to be frogging. In the beginning, you are going to do a lot of frogging, or a lot of just cutting off and starting all over. And that's fine. That's why it's nice just to get you one skein of a real cheap, easy to work yarn with a bigger size hook, and not going with something finer. Don't start with a baby yarn. You're going to have to go a smaller hook. It's just not going to be as pleasant. So here we are now we're going to work on our single crochets. It's usually going to tell you in a pattern, or if you're watching a video, second loop on the hook. So this is your first stitch, which is actually your chaining. This is what we chained. This will be the second chain from the hook. Okay, second chain from the hook. We're going to go into that one. If you go right into this one, you didn't have a chain, and now you actually added stitches, and it's going to go crooked on you. So be aware of that. Now, when you're going in here, we're going to call this the grocery store. Okay? So before, we didn't go in no store, did we? All we did was go stop by a food truck, grab some food, went home. Grab some food, went home. Now, we're going to actually go into the store to get our food. Okay, so a single crochet, we're going to start second chain from the hook. We're going to go into the store. We're going to grab our food. We're going to come out of the store. We're going to pick our food back up. We're going to make sure we have our food. This loop here on the hook is now going to be our car. Okay? So we're going to grab our food, and we're going to go into the car and go home. A single swipe, single crochet, single swipe. Go into the store, grab the food, come out of the store, make sure I don't know, you open the door, you set your bags down, whatever it was. You set your bags down to unlock your door, let's say. Grab your food, a single swipe, into the car and straight home. Single swipe. And again, and I'm going to go ahead and bring this down a little closer so you guys can see it a little bit further up close. Make sure our focus is nice. Go into the store, grab your food, come out of the store, pick your food back up, into the car and home. A single swipe, single swipe, single swipe. Now we're going to keep practicing this. If you guys need to pause that and rewind that, go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to keep moving down the row here. We are going, the chain, it really only has a little V here. Later you may work on the back, but right now we're just going to worry about this. You're just going through up here, this top stitch. Sometimes you're going to hear people say to go through both, which means you're going to come down here because there's a string back in here for the back of the stitch, the back of the chain. So sometimes they'll have you grab here when you are grabbing for a chain. When you're getting onto your chain, let's say you're crocheting to your chain, it really don't stress. Do not stress whether you grab there or you grab there. It really is not going to make any difference when you guys are beginning. And I'll do a couple. Let's do 1, 2 down here. The bottom is a little harder to grab, both of those, instead of just grabbing the top. And we are still just single crocheting down the row. And then I'll just grab about 4 here on the top. 1 strand instead of grabbing those 2 strands. You really cannot tell the difference. This here is a top strand. This down here is grabbing underneath both of those strands. And this goes back to the top strand. I usually always grab the top strand. It's easier. I think it looks sharper. So it's up to you. And like I said, it depends on what the pattern says. to do, try to do it, but this is not a make or break situation. So now we're almost at the end of our chain. I'm going to come down like this. And we have 2 stitches left, right? 1, 2. In the beginning, you guys can be counting, especially if you're doing swatches or you're doing a wash rag. You can count that many stitches. Like I can make a swatch out of this. I'm counting 20 stitches, turn 20 stitches to make sure I have my stitches. But once you guys get to a blanket, possibly a scarf, things like that, you may have 200 stitches. You cannot count 200 every single time that you are going down the row. So it's really important that you guys practice this in the beginning. If you really want to learn and you really want to make beautiful gifts, take the time to practice. So we're going to go into our last chain and finish our single crochet. Now, what do we have to do, everybody? We have to chain 1. Correct. And again, a chain is the food truck. We're just grabbing the food and we're going straight home. We're going to turn our work. Now, as we look at this, get this out of the way. This up here is the chain. There it is. That's giving us our height again. See, so we can go back. Where you're going to be crocheting is in here. Mercy, that thing does not want to stay out of my way. Is right in here. They're pretty prevalent holes. And it actually, if you don't fight it, your hook will slide right in there. And you'll start learning that comfort where it just slides right in and it just starts feeling so beautiful. It's like playing the violin. It's just amazing. So we turned, the hole's right there. So that hole is our grocery store, going into the store. We're grabbing our food. We're coming out. We make sure we have our food into our car and home. One single swoop through the car to the home. A single swoop. But don't forget, you have to go into the store and grab that food and bring it out of the store. Then grab it again and make sure you're bringing it home in your car. Right? Okay, so wonderful, everybody. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to pause this video again. And you guys are going to practice your single crochets until they look so sexy. You're like, I'm ready for a blanket. No, you're not. You really don't want to start off single crocheting a blanket in single crochet. It literally will take you guys forever. What you want to do is you want to be looking for a project that is probably double crochets or half double crochets. And we're going to learn those here in the future. But it really takes a long time. So I am a fast crocheter. And a wash rag, the size of a wash rag, single crochet takes like 40 minutes. So imagine how many wash rags it would take to even make a baby blanket. So you really don't want to just start going, hey, I'm going to make a blanket out of single crochet. And it's going to take a lot of yarn. And it also will be a very heavy see how that really isn't very airy? It's like really stiff. So it's not even going to be a very comfortable blanket. It'll just be too much. Now, if it's a blanket that has a row of single crochets, then double, then single, of course, now you're going to grab some air and it's going to get lighter and it's going to get fluffier. So go ahead, make sure you guys are chaining and turning, and go ahead and you guys practice your single crochets. And then we're going to meet back again to move on to our next stitch. Good luck. Welcome back. I hope that everything has went well for you guys and you have a nice little swatch that you're really proud of and you feel confident enough to go to the next stitch. So this stitch is going to be called a half double crochet. It is bigger than a single crochet. It is taller than a single crochet. So when we do half double crochets, we have to chain 2. Okay? Now, what is going to happen is some of your patterns are going to say that this chain 2 counts as a stitch. What that means is that instead of going into this hole here, I'm going to get you guys just a little closer. Instead of going into this stitch, this big hole right here, what we're going to do is this is going to count as the stitch. And you're going to start right there. If your pattern says counts as a stitch. And then you're going to proceed. I personally do not like it. I'm going to show you why. Don't worry about what I'm doing right this minute. I am going to show you guys how to do the stitch. I'm just making a point here. So what happens is it leaves this really big hole right here, like this. And when you come back around to the other side, instead of crocheting in a beautiful little hole like this that your hook just slips into, you actually have to put your hook through this, like this. The second chain, the top of the chain. If you just slip it in here, it makes even a bigger hole. So I personally don't like it. I will change a pattern so that I always crochet in that hole no matter what. It will not make a difference. Even if it's a shirt or a poncho or a sweater, it is not going to make a difference. What's nice is when you do that, you have a beautiful, lovely V at the top on the end to crochet into like you do every other time. I like my crocheting. When I crochet like this, I like my stuff to be as smooth as possible. So I don't do it. So let's get to learning this stitch. So anyway, we're going to wrap our yarn. This is our recyclable bags that we have to take into the grocery store. Okay, half double crochet, half to grab our recycle bags. We go into the store, we grab our food, we come out of the store. Now, this is our back seat. Okay, this still is our vehicle, and this is still home. That has not changed. We just added one extra because we wrapped it before we went in. Now we grab our food, make sure we have our food. Well, you're always going to have your food on no matter what stitch you're doing. That has to finish the stitch. So you're going to double check you have your food every time. You will always be grabbing this. So now we're going to put it in the back seat that's in the car and go home. It's still one pull through, one sleek move, but you have grabbed your recyclable bags. There, I did put my half double crochet in the stitch I didn't want to. Then we pull through. Okay, we have to grab our bag before we go into the store. And the same thing, now we're coming out. It's the same movement as a single crochet. Now we're just going to make sure we have our food and go all the way home. Go through all of them. It's very sleek, slick. The difference is we're making sure we grab our recyclable bag before we go into the store. Okay? So I'm just going to do a couple more of these, and then I'm going to leave you guys to your own demise. And you guys are going to practice this and practice it. You are going to have to learn how to let your fingers grab and twist and turn and this and that. It will take a long time, guys. Your brain is not used to doing this. And if you ever had to type a letter and you didn't know how to use a keyboard, it's going to take you time. Soon enough, your mind is going to take over. Your fingers are going to do what you want it to do. In fact, they're going to kind of just take over, and it's just going to become a second nature to you. I understand that it's going to be difficult. Try so hard not to fight it. But if you guys watch my hands when I do stuff, so this hand is just moving. I'm going here because that's where I like to fill my yarn. This is how I crochet. Every video, every human being is going to crochet different. That is just a fact. Then I move my finger down, I grab my yarn, then I pinch again, and I come through. I don't know that I'm doing that. It's literally doing it for me. And you guys are going to figure that out in time. I promise you will. It just takes a little bit of patience. And like I said, please don't start a big project and get disappointed. We get to this end. We cannot, again, we can't forget this last stitch right here, or our product is going to start to shrink. So we're going to get that last beautiful V we have there. We're going to chain 2. We're going to turn our work. And we are going to proceed down the road. Okay, well, I am going to let you guys practice this, and I will meet you guys again back here when you guys are feeling comfortable and your stitches look as good as they can for a beginner, and you think you're ready to learn the next stitch. Welcome back. Well, good job, guys. You guys are back and ready for the next stitch. So we are doing, it's called a double crochet. It is double the height of a single crochet. A half double crochet is in between a single crochet and a double crochet. So now we're working on our doubles. So when we do a double crochet, we know we need to chain 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and turn your work. Sometimes it will say just chain 2 on a pattern because you are going right back into that stitch. It's not going to count as a stitch, so they'll tell you to just chain 2. Chain whatever your pattern tells you in the beginning. It just makes more sense. I like to chain 2 when I do it and turn because it doesn't make such a big gap. That's going to be up to you guys. But like I said, I just suggest that you guys follow the pattern in the beginning until you really start learning about what's going on. So you have double the amount of groceries that we're going to get at the store. So we need to remember to get our reusable bags. We're going to go into the grocery store. We're going to come out of the store with all of our food. We're going to make sure we have our food. Now we still have a back seat, we still have a car, and we still have home. We're going to pick up a load of groceries. We have a lot. Remember, we have double the amount. We're going to go put it in the back seat that's in the car, or that's in the car. Yep. Back seat, it's in the car. Now we're going to pick up our second load of groceries. It's just like one bag. And we're going to go ahead and get in the car and get home. So you're doubling the amount of pulls that you're pulling through. It's double the size of a single crochet. Okay, we're going to do it again. So just like the half, we have to grab a bag, a reusable bag. We're going to go into the store. This is all the same. We're going to grab our food. We're going to come out of the store. All the same. But because we have double the amount of food, we have to pull through 2 times. First, we're going to pick up some groceries. We're going to put them in the back seat that's in the car. Then we're going to grab the second load of groceries, or the one last bag, and we're going to jump in the car and go home. Okay. I'm hoping the analogy is helping. I know that it's helped other people that I have taught when I used analogies, because then you can go, wait a minute, that says double crochet. They told me double crochet. Oh, I have to pull through twice, double. And I'm just going to speed up here a little bit till we get to the end. You guys, of course, are more than welcome to rewind it if you need to, or pause it. But you guys are kind of getting the gist now, and this stuff is getting a little bit smoother. Your tension's feeling better. You've got a good idea what your fingers are doing. Just going to try to get to the end so we can turn one more time. I have a lot of other videos out there to make projects. If you guys want to actually follow me with a project, I'm trying to give you guys an overview and ideas and different things that you guys are going to see. Okay, so now we have one last stitch right here, right? You can see that V. And we're going to go into that. Again, the best part about practicing with a swatch is you can go back and go, wait a minute, am I supposed to crochet in that stitch that I'm seeing? And you can go back and count. But remember, this right here, this little end, this little booger that's hanging is not a stitch. That was just getting our height up. Or in the pattern case, it might be a stitch and you might need to count it. But that's what's, again, really nice. You don't want to go back and count 200 stitches to go, oh my God, is that my stitch right there? I don't know. So this way you get practices and then you'll know. And again, okay, we're going to chain 3. 3 is standard. 2 you'll see quite often. Again, I like 2. So here we go. We're going to let you be on your own again because you guys are so good already at doing this stuff on your own. And we are going to just keep practicing that. And then we are going to do one more stitch I would like to show you guys before we finish up part 1 of the video. There is a part 2 that gets us into some deeper stitches, some more advanced stitches, and different ways for us to manipulate the yarn. So I will see you guys here very soon. Good luck. Okay, you guys are on the home stretch now. Last video of part 1, and you should be able to do a project, okay? We are going to work on a slip stitch. So what we're going to do is we are just going to slip into the store. We're going to come out with our food, and we're going straight home, okay? Go into the store, grab your food, come out. You do not have to double check if you have your yarn. Your food or your yarn, because you're slipping right home. You're going in, grabbing your food, and slipping right home. Slip right home. Okay, guys, go in, grab your food, slip right home. Slip stitches need to be loose. They need to be like a chain. So if you watch me do this, can you see the air that we have here? That is the kind of air that we want when we are slipping in our slip stitch in or through when we're going straight home. If I was to do a single crochet, do you see where my hook is now? I keep my hook lined up, sitting almost on top of my product because you want your stitches to be consistent and tight and smooth. So there's a huge difference in where I'm pulling that yarn through. So slip stitches are used in a couple different ways. They are used to trim out something as a trim or a border. Usually not a blanket. It would be probably a single face, something that was like a pillow. Maybe you would do it and then you would put it together where there's not a backside. It is also used to move over from one stitch to another, and this actually becomes invisible when you come back around and crochet over the top of it. You're going to see this mainly in projects that start with a granny square and they go out and around and around. I would strongly suggest that you guys do not do that in the beginning. The reason is it is harder to see if you messed up, and you will not know for many rows, many rows. When you're doing a back and forth blanket, you notice a lot quicker that things are not looking correct or it's shrinking on the side. When you're going around, you're turning your material and it is sitting different on your lap, and you are just not going to see the mistakes, and you're going to finish with something and it's going to be wonky, or it's going to be hooped up in the middle or shrunk in on the sides because you literally just missed one stitch somewhere. So I strongly suggest starting with this until you get a little bit better at seeing the stitches and knowing what you're doing, and feeling that comfort level. There's a counting that you do when you crochet. It's like a 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. It's like dancing. It's so beautiful. I love it. But the last thing I'm going to wrap up on for your guys' beginner class, the part 1 lesson, is how to turn a corner. This is what you're going to be doing if you wanted to put a nice trim, let's say, around your blanket border. So we have to always remember how we have to, I'm going to go to a single crochet here. Remember how we have to make a height when we turn? We also have to make a space, or height to turn and go back. We need to make a space to turn. So there's a couple different ways that you can make a corner. You can do 2 single crochets. This is my last stitch right here. Do I maybe get a little closer here? This is my last stitch. So I am going to put 2 single crochets into this last stitch. There's 1. That counts for this row, this top row. I'm going to turn my work. I'm going to go right back into the same hole. That is 2. Now, that has given me my movement down this side. Okay, always 2. When you do 2, it is going to make a very, very round corner when you're going around. You do not do that often. In granny squares sometimes, but when you're doing borders, you want them to be a little bit more defined. It just doesn't look as sharp, and I'm just going to show you here real quick how round that corner is. Can you guys see how round that is there? And it does have a tendency to come up like that, like it's sitting, because we gave it not enough space to turn nicely. So we're going to go ahead and just frog this out, ribbit, ribbit, crochet here. That is the last stitch in this row. We're going to chain 1, we're going to turn, and we're going to go back into this stitch. Depending on the pattern and the sharpness of your corner is going to be how many chains you do. Chaining 2 in the corner, and you still have to go back, right back into that stitch, is going to, of course, make a sharper corner than chaining 1 or chaining nothing. So now we have a nice, this is real nice. This is not going to curl up on it. Well, it is because I've been messing with it, but it's not too tight. It's not going to curl up on us. That's a chain 2. A chain 1 is a little bit rounder corners than this is, of course. That is just a nice looking corner. And I'll go ahead and just do a 1 chain real quick so you guys can just see. And you guys, when you guys do your borders, if you're kind of just freehanding or, using your own talents, experiment with the border and just frog it. That's the best thing to do. So there's a single crochet. It's a nice rounded corner. So if I'm doing a blanket and some soft baby kind of pastel colors and I want it to be more of a gentler look, I will do the chain 1. If I'm doing something, let's say like in black and red, and it's really vibrant and kind of, a little more punkish or whatever, or an adult blanket, I typically do the chain 2. But that's how you would border around. These are always going to be hard to fight when you go down this side here. With single crochets, it's easy because you can go right in the holes. When it comes to double crochets, it gets more difficult and more difficult. But if you guys in the beginning are just following patterns or watching videos, they're going to tell you exactly what they expect from you for this rough edge here to come around. When you come back down to our chain, it's fairly simple. The holes are there just like they are with a single crochet. It's just that you're not going to see that really pretty V that we see here. That's why it's okay if your chain's a little looser, because if you're coming, I'll just use my tail. If you're coming around, you're going to go right through this and you are literally covering up. That chain is just getting covered up. So, and most blankets have borders, unless it's a real fancy blanket and you're creating a border as you crochet. So there it is. There you go, guys. Good luck, have fun, and thank you so much for joining me. I hope you move on to part 2, which is some more advanced stitches. And like always, please like, share, and subscribe. Good luck, guys.